The Swell Season Podcast is recorded by the NewsStand studio at Rockefeller Center in the heart of Manhattan and is distributed by the Swell Season Surf Radio Network. Hello, and welcome to the Swell Season Surf Podcast. I'm your host, Tyler Brewer. Our guest today is someone whose work quietly weaves its way into our visual landscape, whether we notice it or not. His art is part history lesson, part typographic meditation, and part love letter to the handmade. Jon Bocksel is a Brooklyn-based artist, sign painter, and gilder whose work explores the boundaries between language, symbols, and visual art. For nearly 20 years, Jon has been making his mark, sometimes literally, on walls, windows, and gallery spaces alike. His background in printmaking and his fascination with hand lettering, calligraphy, and ancient brush writing all find their way into his work, blending old-world craft with modern conceptual approach. Whether it's a storefront sign in the city or a painted glyph on a canvas, Jon invites us to slow down, look closer, and reconsider the meaning we assign to the written word. We'll be talking with Jon about his creative process, the disappearing art of hand-painted signage, the evolution of written language, and of course, how all this ties into surf culture, design, and spaces we move through every day. Jon is my guest. Welcome to the show, my man.
Thanks for having me, Tyler.
Yeah,
that was
no
a nice
worries.
intro. Thank you.
Thank you. No worries. I mean, so we've been rolling in the similar circles. We have many similar friends, but we've never really properly hung out.
No,
like just seen each other in the water here and there. And like, so I was like, who should I bring on?
Yeah, why not meet each other in front of a camera?
I was like, yeah, exactly. In front of a camera on the podcast. I was like, let's do this, you know? And
Cool.
I was also
Thank
like,
you. Thanks for having me.
I really like your work. Like your sign work is stunning.
Thank
But
you.
your other artwork, your painting, your other stuff is incredible. And one of the things I noticed, like you recently had a show called Repeater last month, I believe, or
Yeah,
2 months
at
ago now.
My friend's therapy office. Yeah, he's also a surfer, if you know
Mr. Matt Rohr, who
Yeah.
is a former guest and also he did a co-host.
Yeah.
So
Shouts out to Matt.
Absolutely. But these were like the artwork that you had there, this like beautiful repetition of calligraphy and gouache painting style. I thought was absolutely beautiful. And your work blends like calligraphy, sign painting, and ancient writing practices. Was there a specific moment or influence that pushed you in this direction?
It's a good question. I mean, I'm always jumping back and forth between being a commercial artist and then doing having more of a studio practice in the background. And I think, when we're there painting signs, you become so enmeshed in just form. And a lot of those calligraphy pieces are really just about that. But then repeating it in this way and starting to see things in nature where there's this repetition everywhere. And it sort of just starts to create a vibration, if you will. And, akin to surfing in that way, where there are these little nuances and these moments that start to happen. But it really just happened in the background, I think kind of like the best things, you try to let those things happen naturally. And there's a lot of failed work people don't see, Well,
you posted some of your like outtakes recently for the show.
Yeah.
And a lot of people like those almost better than
more
the
of
finished
those
pieces.
sold than the
Really?
Yeah, they're cheaper, but yeah, those are usually on the easel, like, or I'll try, because for the people listening, I'm basically painting a repeated form or like a character, if you will, and they tend to be almost like, think of it like a motion in surfing. It's just like a movement, and then you stop, and then you connect it to the next one. So you're just kind of doing these connections. So, and they're stacked like lines, almost in like a grid. And you make these movements, but if they don't line up right or things can happen, because I'm using like an old style dip pen.
Wow.
So things can happen like you dip it and then you pull it near the paper and you get a droplet and you're like, oh shit. Sometimes it's a happy moment. You're like, oh, that's perfect. I mean, or really it's maybe just where your temperament's at that point in time. And then those practice sheets, I started to realize like, oh, these are actually kind of interesting. And then they'll sit on the side of the easel. I'll start a new one and then maybe I'll draw or write down a note when I'm having a thought and I'm working, and then they kind of became this other thing.
Well, it feels like also like there's this layering to it, right? Like you have this repetitive kind of calligraphy going on. Like,
it's like a muscle memory, it's a movement.
But at the same time, there's like these, you changed a certain color or shading in a certain bit, and there's like a lettering or a word or something that you have going on beneath it too. It almost reminds me of those paintings, the artwork that you had to like blur your eyes to see the rocket ship.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, I talked about that with a friend, the magic eye. Yeah, there's some weird vibration that happens to your eye, and I guess I should explain. Like, I'm using the dip pen, and I'm doing this very calculated form, right? So one piece is usually 100 or 200 or so of the same repeated forms, but
holy shit.
Being it's a dip pen, when I run out of ink, you only can get so many strokes. Then I dip it back, and it's actually not ink, it's paint. I dip it back in the gouache mixture that I make, and I start another one. So it's this kind of like positioning of something that's really calculated, and I don't like to call it a drawing because it's something more you feel when you do. But then when I run out of ink, I switch to the next color. So you're getting this calculated form mixed with this kind of, I don't know if natural is the right word, but this sort of element of chance of the way the color then starts to form a pattern that's really not up to my control.
Wow.
And it changes when I work, like humidity is a factor, wind is even a factor. Like sometimes I have the studio door open, the wind changes, and it's like, oh, I can only get 2 strokes out of this. So that I like to leave things up to chance as much as I also like to be kind of a calculated person. It's that balance that I think is a place that I like to dance in,
Sounds like a surfer's mindset.
Yeah, it is.
It
is. Yeah.
You have a plan that you want to do on the wave, but the wave has other ideas, and so you have to constantly adjust. And
absolutely.
Which is a really good skill to have.
Yeah, awareness is important.
How's your carpal tunnel? Holy shit, man. Like, listeners, like, it is repetitive, and it's like the discipline that you have is incredible. Like,
I can only do so many a day.
Yeah.
And it depends on the forms again, but I won't really let myself do more than 3 or 4 a day. And that's a feat, because I mean, making these new pieces, they really only take maybe an hour and a half. But again, it's like I sit down to do one piece and it might take 3 hours, because again, I might have those fudge ups.
Yeah.
Then that goes to the side and you start over, or you start to see, I should adjust this color a little bit. You start over. But yeah, if I'm in a groove, there's some days where I can just do one right off the bat, but it's like no more than 3 or 4 a day. It's too much for my hand, but I luckily don't suffer from arthritis.
Not yet.
Yeah. I have all kinds of tinctures and things friend give me too. I'm a big Tiger Balm and Arnica guy, so
let's just go get a massage, man.
Yeah, so shouts out to Andrew, storyteller. He's getting his massage therapy license. He gave me one recently after that show. Actually, I was cooked, so he gave me one. It was amazing. So,
Mr. DiNicola.
Yeah, he's great. But that was the second massage I ever had in my life. One was at a bar mitzvah.
Oh, dude, you are missing out. You got to go to Happy Feet out in Rockaway.
There's one in Rockaway, huh?
So, $60 for an hour.
I would never drive home. I'd go surf, get a massage, and just fall asleep right there on the peninsula.
That's okay. You know, it's nothing. You don't do an afternoon surf afterwards. You do loose. Get a little nap in between. Where did you grow up? You grew up in New Jersey?
For the most part. I mean, I moved around a lot as a kid.
Really?
I was born in New York, and then when I was 3, we moved to the border of New Jersey, Pennsylvania, so nowhere near the ocean. I lived there till I was 6, and then I lived in the Chicago suburbs from when I was 6 to 12 actually, and then moved back to New Jersey, like North New Jersey, like Morris County, and then moved to Brooklyn in 2001 to go to art school, and just kind of like 2001, I was like, thank God I'm out of the suburbs. I can't do this anymore.
Did you grow up surfing or?
No, not at all. Occasionally, like my grandfather had a little beach bungalow out in the North Fork. So even so, you're not that close to the ocean, but like learn to body surf and boogie board out like K road zones.
Yeah.
But for me, like I started street skating when I was about 10. Yeah. And I always emulated surfing. Like this was back when you could go to the movie store, right? The movie rental spot and get VHS tapes. And there was like only 2 or 3 skate videos, but there'd be like Endless Summer and like 5 Summer Stories. And so like after we got burnt out of those like skate videos, which were also, that was old school skating at the time. That was people riding like
clay wheels.
Not that old. Actually, they had skateboard in there if anybody's seen that. But no, it was more like, so when I started skating in 93, it was more like, this is new school skating. We had a nose, like tricks got very technical. Wheels were very small. Skateboarding was pretty ugly at the time, but it needed to happen though. And so there was like this division, but at the movie rental spot, right at the VHS store, I wish I could remember the name, they had some of these surf movies. So once we got bored of those 3 skate videos, we were mostly like watching surf videos and like trying to emulate that stuff. And like, you know, we also had crappy skate spots that were more lean themselves to that, like just weird sewer embankment. You're like, oh, I want to just go up and do a carve on that, or like try to do a tail slide on that. So I didn't really start surfing until I was 26, 27.
Wow.
Of course, did it a little bit in high school and had some skate buddies in art school. Like one of my friends was out from Montauk. He was always like, dude, you got to surf. Like the way you skate, the way you think about it. And I was always like, yeah, but like I don't have money for a surfboard. I don't have a car. And I remember going out to Rockaway with him in like 2003, and there was like a pretty good swell. And I was on the beach with my partner, and we were just like, wow, like this is pretty sick. Like, you know, this exists.
This exists in New York City.
Yeah. And that was, I think that was like September or August at the time. So, probably.
And that was like your first like kind of surf proper then, would you say? Or
no, I had surfed in high school a couple times, like down the Jersey Shore on a really small thruster, and was just like, what? Like this is, and it was so slow. And now in hindsight, you realize I was surfing like some horrible wind chop on a potato chip. Of course, I hated it.
I've heard you rip on a skateboard though.
Not really.
Yeah, our mutual friend Mike Matchmer would claim differently. He said, "Yo, he fucking rips on the skate."
It was, you know, I grew up with some friends that went pretty far in skateboarding, so I wasn't like that one, you know, but then you hang out with like surfers that don't skate that much and like, oh my God, like you can kickflip or like you can wall ride. I'm like, you know, like it's not, I was the bogus one in the crew, you know?
You were the one documenting.
Yeah, a lot of the time. Yeah, definitely. Definitely.
Let me ask then, like, where did art come into play for you then? And where did you kind of start finding your way into that? Was it through skateboarding, like in skate culture?
It definitely was. Yeah. I mean, I think there's like, of course, you know, maybe now I'm in my 40s, you start to think about things. There's some genetic disposition. Like a lot of people in my family are creative, but they never really did anything with it, so to say. Or wanted to pursue it as a career, if you will. But yeah, I mean, just going to skate shops in the 90s, they were so inspiring. And there was this interesting twist of fate that happened like 10 years ago. I started studying under this sign painter from Iowa named John Downer, incredible sign painter. His parents owned a grocery store growing up, so he painted all those like flashy grocery store signs. Now, if you look up John, he designed Iowan Old Style, which is one of the Mac iOS interface typefaces. He went on from just painting grocery store signs into that, which is very inspiring to me. These people that look at letters and they're not just looking at it as like, this is the interface for the job. It's like, but what is this within the whole continuum of human communication and things like that? So John, though, I found out, started studying with him at Cooper Union, doing continuing education, and he designed a lot of stuff for Fresh Jive. And like when I was a kid, this sounds corny to say now, you're like, I wouldn't wear a Fresh Jive. But as a kid, it was
the shit.
Flashy lettering and like, what is this? And it's all informed by hand lettering and sign painting. You know, that was stuff that was all done by hand and drawn by hand, like a lot of the old surf logos. So that definitely surf shops, skate shops have a presence in like my learning of art. And I have some friends I've nerded out with about this. Like in the 90s, you know, culture was something that was kind of hard to find, especially in the suburbs. But if you went to a skate shop, you were immediately in this world and this visual landscape of different odd logos and drawings, and it was like this really cool place to be, you know?
Well, I remember like the H Street,
totally.
Boards.
Hocus Pocus.
Oh man, it was just like this iconography of that period, where it was this mix of pop art with graffiti, which is just, to me, that's my jam right there.
And punk and hip hop,
exactly.
and just like covered all these grounds.
It was fascinating. It was a good time to kind of, if you were creatively inclined, I think it's like it was perfect for someone like you to kind of just pique your interest a little bit. Who were the artists or designers or skaters even that influenced like what you do today? Like, was there any particular ones that you look towards?
And I mean, growing up skating in Chicago, we kind of always looked more towards the East Coast because California was just like irrelevant to us, or we were like, those guys are spoiled,
Soft. They're soft, man.
So, and then also having the opportunity to move back to the East Coast when I was 13 is like New York was blowing up.
Yes.
And, but I mean, I'm not dogging the West Coast. Stereo Sounds, like Jason Lee's company, was amazing. There's this beautiful Super 8 film called The Visual Sound that they made. That was just like mind blowing at the time. But yeah, I mean, skateboarders. Keith Hufnagel was a big influence. I was lucky enough to meet him a few times and work with him.
Wow.
Which was incredible. Just incredibly humble person too. Which is such a rare thing in these times, to be like that kind of cultural icon, if you will, but also be really humble and on the level. He was a big inspiration. Just his skating. Any of the Underachievers videos by Dan Wolf. If anyone's familiar, that's kind of a deep cut, but like his videos one of them had no music in it. It was just sounds of a skateboard, but that's awesome. Yeah, it's actually beautiful. It's all black and white, but like all the Philadelphia guys, Ricky Oyola, Matt Reason, Serge, all those guys, I love that style of skating. And I almost try to surf like that now. It's like, it's minimal, like it's not super technical. It's more just like, all right, set it up right. Do it at the right moment in the wave, or do it at the right moment on the street. It's not all about this flash and panache. It's more about like kind of minimalistic approach.
Economy of movement. As Derek Hind once put.
Yeah, that's what calligraphy is.
Yeah.
That's interesting. I didn't know he said that. That's beautiful.
Yeah. Well, I feel like calligraphy and surfing are the same thing.
They are.
You're just drawing continuous lines, basically, or as Matt Warshar once said of Tom Curran surfing, one curvilinear thrust.
Well, yeah, and I mean that's a subjective perspective, but also from a physical perspective, the way that you push a pen and it's a repeated motion is kind of the similar thing you're doing with, say, like a roundhouse. You're practicing the same movement each time.
I wonder,
it's a body kinesthetic relationship of understanding how to move and try to copy that each time and work out the kinks.
I've got an idea. See, we need to make a piece where you take a famous surfer's line and then you draw it and repeat it on paper.
So I did a class with Lara Bea like a couple years ago now. They asked me to do something, and for it I made a little video. And I did a video, I think one of Dane Godowkis, is that how you pronounce his name? And one of Mikey February. And essentially a roundhouse is an S.
Yeah.
It's not how we paint an S because we tend to do the spine first. It's getting technical.
I love it.
We tend to do the spine first and then we do the tops and the bottoms. But essentially a roundhouse is an S. So I overlaid me doing an S the hard way with his turn. And it was interesting. It really hit. The kids understood it. It really hit with the kids. Just trying to get them in a mindset of like thinking about these things.
Thinking about surfing as a canvas as opposed to a athletic endeavor, even. A
competition. I try to just, I don't teach a lot, but I do from time to time, and I really try to break people away from that. I don't want to say kids because I've also taught adults, but, try to break people out of that mindset. I don't think this competitive mentality is really good for everyone.
Okay, Chandler. Soul surfer.
Had to zing me somewhere. Yeah, no, but I mean, look at our politics. I mean, that's the place we're headed in is this competitive mind state. And like, I'm not competitive in the water sometimes. Yeah, right. Like, of course we all are. But that I don't think is the end goal.
No, and it it shouldn't be the reason why you surf. I mean, well, I mean,
maybe for some,
it could be, it could be, but I just think there's so much more. You're missing out on other aspects of it than as opposed to if you're just a competitive surfer, or you're just a shredder, and that's all you want to do. Like, you're gonna be disappointed at some point in your life because your body's not gonna be able to handle that. And I imagine, like, as you've gotten older, both with your surfing, skating, and your art, I feel like we lose a certain athleticism as we get older. And so we can't be like constantly energized and double pump bottom turns or whatever, like we learn to be more efficient with our body and our movements. And especially in surfing, I feel like I am much more like I can draw out a line so much more smoothly than I used to. And it's so much less frantic. And, like when you're young, you're like, and I imagine like that's what happens with your artwork too.
That has definitely, been a direction with these new pieces. Yeah, I would say that's so. Yeah.
What, so then when did you really start to take the art seriously and something that you wanted to study? Because you went to Pratt, which is like one of the greatest, design schools in the world. Where did that motivation come from? Oh, are you about to be like, it's not actually that good. It's kind of shit. But
no. I'm not going to say that, but I was a horrible student. I mean,
Really?
We're talking like I was like a C and D student in high school. My dad's going to listen to this, but don't say that. But no, I was a horrible student. But I loved making art, and I kind of realized at a certain point where I was just like, fuck it, I'm just going to put this all into my art. I wasn't engaged in the academics in high school, and it took a turn because then when I did go to Pratt and I started learning more about world history, I was like, oh, wow, this is fascinating, but that's because this isn't some watered-down version. These are really good teachers, and this is really good material, and it's a narrative maybe I relate to a little bit more, rather than like public school in New Jersey. It was pretty watered down, you could imagine.
And if you don't have the right teacher, introducing you to those things, you don't see the pragmatism of learning it,
Yeah, completely. So, I mean, much to the chagrin of my father, he was like, oh, God, I don't want you to go to art school. Like, what are you going to do for a living? And I was like, you don't realize this is all I have. Like, this is, even when I was in high school, I was painting, and I was painting signs a little bit for my high school, and I was just something I was enamored with. I think there's some family history there too. Like my great grandfather came here from Rome, and he was a decorative painter, and he didn't have a very easy life. So there's always that in the background of everybody's like, don't do that, don't do that. But be
a dentist, damn it.
Yeah, totally. And it's just like, that's not going to happen with me. It's not who I am. I was always like pretty fiercely creative. And so I chased it, But I went there to study painting, and I was like completely floored when I got there by the way that, some kids could draw. And, it was like, I think my second day of class where they're drawing from life or a nude model, and I'd never done that before. And I was just like, this is so intimidating. That's very difficult to do. Like, people don't realize like the human body is so nuanced and things. It's not just like drawing a building, So for me, I was like, this is so intimidating. And it was good for me. I really got humbled.
Did it make you feel very insecure?
Oh, hell yeah.
A bit down. Was it very... Was it endowed? Is that why you felt intimidated?
No, it wasn't. It wasn't that at all. It was
layman non-artist joke. Sorry.
It was so difficult to see other people that excelled this and had studying that in high school. These are kids that are coming from private schools where they had models come 3 times a day, and also I'm very lucky. I had a great photography program in my high school. We had a dark room back when that was a thing, and that was just like such a great experience to have. But I sort of realized at school, and my mom, very pragmatic person, a little bit more blue collar, if you will. She was a nurse for many years. She was like, you should really think about like trying to get some kind of trade. So, and I was like, yeah, I actually relate to that. I've been taking these printmaking classes, and I love how practical it is, and I could probably get a job in a print shop. So like that, changed my major. I was working in the print shop. Wow. There were 6 printmaking majors. It was not a cool thing to do. The print was in the basement. It was smelly. There were chemicals. It was great.
That sounds awesome.
Yeah, I was like, this is awesome.
Getting high on fumes.
Yeah, you want to learn how to screen print on skateboards and like make T-shirts and like
exactly.
You know, which is not really was very well respected at Pratt. But I didn't care. I wanted to do what I wanted to do, which I know I sound like such a selfish person, but I think you have to follow, you know, who you are, you know, to get anywhere. So
well, it led you to where you needed to be, you know.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's like, I'm curious, like I know I had a lot of friends. I went to the new school, so I had a lot of friends who went to Parsons, and there was like, I remember them all complaining about like their first year. One of the things they had to draw like a circle, like nonstop, like 100 times perfectly. Did you have to do that? Like, was that how did you train your hands to be so stable, to be able to do some of these works?
That's a good question. I mean, yeah, it definitely helps working in the commercial field, keeping my hands and my eyes moving, so to say.
Yeah.
But no, we didn't have to draw a wheel. One of the crazier things from school that was just like so outlandish was they gave you a Bic blue ballpoint pen and you had to draw this ridiculous wood engraving. It was like this 15th century Jesus on the cross with the apostles around him. So there's 13 people in the drawing, if I'm doing my math right. And it's all this drapery, and you had to bring it was a fairly large drawing too. It was like say like 20 by 40 inches.
Oh my gosh.
And you had to bring it back with the pen with no ink left in it. It was just this like, I mean, it was like torture. It was like, what? Yeah, and the teacher proceeded to throw somebody's drawing out the window.
No.
During that, I remember telling my mentor John later about that. And he's like, "That's horrible. You should never do that." I was like, "Yeah, that is kind of like
that's fucked up.
It's kind of traumatizing." But my drawing was no good. But luckily, it wasn't mine that went out the window.
It's because you didn't leave a drop of ink.
Oh, I didn't finish the pen.
Oh, you didn't?
I remember like having like a piece of paper on the side, just like, just drain this fucking thing. You know what I mean? Drain this. Yeah, totally.
Start sucking on it, you know?
It was so whack. The first year art school was rough. It was weird. It was just like, honestly, it was like boot camp. It was just the amount of workload they gave you was preposterous. And then once that was over, again, I kind of realized I do have this other yearning and this need to learn about other things, other social things, other social sciences, etc., world history even, that I really didn't pay attention to in high school. So it was a good experience for me.
Yeah. You know, well, it takes like the right setting sometimes to learn. So then when did the sign making start to come into play for you?
Good question.
It's a great way to subsidize your art habit, if you will. You know, and it allows you obviously to interact in this world, but it's also like a legitimate art form.
It's a trade. It's a legitimate trade.
Yeah.
You know?
I mean, it's a legitimate trade, but it's also a somewhat respected art form too. Yeah. You know, it's like there are people like, you know, who do that, and it's almost like this pop art kind of thing, I feel like. I don't know.
Yeah, it could be
depending
pop art or just really pragmatic uses like designing typefaces for a computer.
Yeah.
People spend decades on those. They don't realize like decades go into designing that work. And now I don't design fonts per se, but I design lettering. I won't bore people
What's the difference?
That's a good question. Okay, so essentially a font is a system. So a font is like saying...
a whole alphabet of...
Yeah, and it's not just the alphabet, though. It's the spacing between the characters that's so important. And you could imagine the math problem now. So when you space out a word, the way that an A sits next... or the way that an L sits next to an A is different than the way that an L sits next to a T because of spacing. So you have to do all those math problems. So for each letter, you have to figure out the math for the preceding and the preceding and the letter after it as well, and then go through that math problem. So it takes years. Now, going about designing a logo is a little easier because I can just space it accordingly to that. And again, some people are listening to this, they're like, well, he's not even talking about the form, he's talking about spacing. But spacing is crucial to making something legible, interesting, and appealing.
Well, you need negative space
100%
in order to have the positive space. Otherwise, shit gets lost.
Yes, exactly.
You know,
it's the negative space is just as important as the positive
if
space.
If not more in some ways. I
absolutely.
Like.
Yeah.
You know?
Absolutely.
It's like music. The spacing between notes is extremely important.
Yeah.
And so
there is no silence. That's what John Cage says, right? There is no silence.
Exactly.
I agree with that.
It's super cool though. Like, I mean, it's interesting because it's like, I feel like you have been coming up in a world where I feel like people have started to show more appreciation for this style of work, this trade. You know, you look at the success of like Jeff Canham, you know,
sure.
whose stuff is taken very seriously in the surf world, at least, and obviously the art world too. You know, but that sort of stuff, and the Barry McGee stuff even is a little bit kind of borders on that.
Yeah,
too.
He worked as a printmaker. He studied printmaking. Surfed for them once. Man rips.
Yeah.
Man rips on
really.
But to answer your question, like, you know, when I got out of art school, I was like, I got to find a way to make a living. And I was working in print shops.
Mm-hmm.
I was doing letterpress printing. And so I was around all these letter forms again. And at art school, they really kind of pushed that stuff down. Because I remember, like, my sophomore year of school, I was using some lettering in my screen prints. And a lot of the teachers were like, don't do that. Like, that's crap. Like, that's like, even I remember one teacher, like, that's blue collar. That's like a little too obvious. And I was just like, no, the point is that it is obvious. The point is that it is something you have to read. Like, it's sort of what I'm going for. But, you know, you're like, all right, whatever, bury that. But when I was working in the print shops, I started to realize this love and this affection I had just for letter forms and how people spend hours and decades and whatever building these forms that work together and are balanced. And then I started, I had a friend that said, hey, my friend has a barbershop. He needs his truck painted. So I was like, okay. Painted his truck. It was an absolute disaster. I really didn't know what I was doing. I didn't have the right brushes, the right paint. In fact, I was smart enough to make a sketch before I embarked on this. Made a sketch, showed it to him. It was in Spanish. It's not my native language, but, and, finish like 3/4 of the truck, and he shows up, and also like it was one of those things supposed to paint in the garage, then it's like 95 degrees out in the sun, you're there painting it, and here you are, you're like at art school, you're like, how am I gonna make a living like doing this, you know? I gotta figure out how to formalize this or whatever. And he's like, oh man, you spelled it wrong. And I was like, you approved the sketch. Like, oh shit, grab the paint thinner, start scrubbing it off, redo it. And I was just kind of like so burnt out after that I was like, I don't know. And that was in 2005. So 2005 to 2012-ish, I was working doing carpentry for an artist, building picture frames. And he kind of ran a similar business to like a sign shop. It was all custom work. Mm-hmm. You come in, you do a consultation, you know, consultation's usually free. You give them some prices and you wait to hear back. It's kind of similar as painting a sign in a way. And I kind of learned a lot from him, just how to run a business. And he was really sweet and also an amazing artist. And he was like, you're crazy, don't start your own business. But I wanted to surf more. Yeah. I wanted to have my own schedule. Mm-hmm. I wanted to be more engaged with the public too. I didn't want to work in a print shop just cranking out prints or just sawing frames all day and like not feeling connected to the public, if you will. Yeah. And I knew that doing signs would provide that in a way. So I just, you know, it slowly started to snowball. You know, you're doing part-time and then all of a sudden you're doing it full-time and then you're doing it overtime and your artwork really goes to the background and then you get kind of comfortable and you got somebody helping you and you're able to kind of do both certain times, you know, or work 6-hour day, go to the studio, do 2-3 hours of drawing and just juggling it. I'm kind of coming back to art right now, if you will. It's been more in the foreground the last 3 years.
What sparked that?
That's a good question.
I'm full of them.
Yeah. I think if I had to like pinpoint it, because I've been thinking a lot about this lately. So I've worked for this artist, Felix Gonzalez Torres, I think I've painted 4 or 5 of his pieces. Really fascinating artist, lived in New York, conceptual artist, but he had these pieces called portraits that he made for people. So someone would commission him to make a portrait. Mm-hmm. And these portraits were words and phrases often with a date next to them. Mm-hmm. So it would say D-Day, 1952. I think the timeline's off on that. I think it's 49. Yeah. But you know what I'm saying, or whatever it was. And Marilyn Monroe, 1965. Just seemingly random phrases. Now, this was a portrait that this was a picture that's somewhat made up someone's portrait, if you will. And these portraits are mutable. So he gave these to someone. They were often painted in their home, and they were always painted by a sign painter. He would hire a sign painter so another set of hands could be involved in this. His work very much involved community, if you will, or other people, just not himself. He always kind of wanted to take it out of himself, or to my understanding. So I did 3 portraits for him in 2023, I want to say. And after I finished, the foundation said, hey, we want to commission you to write a piece about what it means to be a sign painter or a lettering artist, if you will, working under these tenets. When he passed away, he wrote these tenets to his work so that, again, they could be mutable, they could be changed. Yeah. They take on different depths. They go in a gallery, and there's like changes that I can make with spacing and like, I think we should move this word. It doesn't really work right there. And so they asked me to write this piece, and I was like, wow, this is an incredible honor. This is a very just super interesting artist, very philosophical, really kind of above a lot of the things I was studying in art school. And I couldn't write this piece because I'd tap out 3 words, and then I was just like, all right, phone rings, and they're like, yeah, we need a sign next week. And you're like, all right, yeah, this piece, I'll worry about that later, you know? Yeah. Life takes hold. And then it just came to a point where I was like, I really should do this, both like for myself and, you know, for them. I think it would be a really good experience for me, though, to really put this stuff down in words. So I just realized, I was like, I can't write this in New York. So I had a friend down in the Caribbean. I like to go down there and surf, and I called him up. He lives in this neighborhood, and he's like a little, very small village. And he's like, just like, can you get me a house rental for January? Nice. I was like, I got like $400. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, not a lot of money. And I know you can find that kind of stuff around there. So he calls me back, and I find a place, and I go down there, sight unseen, rent the place. Hot, dusty, no air conditioning, no window screens, mosquitoes, and I'm like, perfect.
You're like Rocky going to LA to train, man. You know, it's like Eye of the Tiger. You gotta get the Eye of the Tiger back.
I guess. I mean, yeah, maybe I haven't seen that movie in years, but that's probably there in the back of my head. You know, so
gotta start at the bottom again. You gotta go back to the roots.
Just tapping out this essay, and of course, like, I mean, you know, trying to write for 2-3 hours a day and then go surf and, you know, jump back and forth. But it really allowed me to put a lot of these ideas together, and then at the same time breaking from writing and working on these repeated patterns, because I was just really getting down to the essence, you know, thinking about just these repeated forms that we see constantly, both in the visual facade of storefronts and things like that, but then also in nature. You know, there's visual patterns around us constantly. You know, we're surfing little wind ripples, if you will, form a pattern on your eye. And I think there's something to that there. I can't explain that, and I won't ever probably try, but it's something that fascinates me still.
I mean, I thoroughly enjoy it. Like, I really like the patterns that you've been doing. And I also like, it's funny because, like, you know, I have my friend Jeremy Dean, even, he does like this thing where he takes American flags, pulls them apart string by string, and then ties them back onto a needle. Oh, wow. And like puts it back onto foam core. And it's like, wow. This process, it's not so much about the end result even, it's about the process.
Yeah,
like he could easily have like people do it, he can mechanize it, but it's about the fact that he did it by hand. And I think the same with yours. It's like this, the fact that you did it all by hand, this repetition that they all look almost exactly alike, but they're not.
Yeah, they're not. They're a little fucked up.
Exactly.
Yeah, because they're human.
Exactly. There's something about that. And I think there's an appreciation for that. And I was curious, like, how you feel then as someone who's almost like gone, I don't want to say backwards in terms of technology and doing it, but you've taken a step back as opposed to other people who have, you know, AI, everything's done with, you know, now you just prompt it, you know, and I'm curious, like, how you see that affecting your work at all or influencing it.
It's a good question. I've never used AI. I think actually that's a lie. I used it the other week because I got like a prompt that said like, use AI to alter this photo. I was like, let me just try this. But it's so bad for the environment too, from what I understand. So I'm just like, no, I'm not doing that game. Like, that's just, I do enough with buying surfboards that I just try not to even tap into that. But no, I think that's actually why it's more interesting in these times, is because And in fact, I mean, calligraphy is almost like computer science in a way. You know,
Yeah.
you're using this like XY axis to create these forms, and they're repeating, but yet you can't repeat it perfectly each time. And I think that's the point. I think that's almost just the point of life, is that nothing is ever going to be the same as it ever was. It's always new and interesting for the first time every time. You know, that's like something that I think Baldwin said. That's what it is. That's what makes it special. There's repeating, and there's repeating patterns, and there's repetition, but it's still not the same every time. There's patterns, but they're still not the same every time. That swell angle you think is going to be great next week, it doesn't mean it's going to be, because maybe the sand shifted.
Yeah.
You know, maybe your mind shifted.
Even in wave pools, it's never exactly the same. There's always going to be some little variation, some droplet, some bump that's going to be different than the last time. Or perfect reef breaks even. It's always, and that's why we keep coming back to it.
Yeah, that's what makes it special. Yeah.
And I think like your work, it's like I could keep going back to it and keep finding something slightly different, or noticing a slight subtle change or subtle pattern. You can even see like, oh, this is where he probably got tired, or this is where he ran out of ink. This is like trying to deduce almost what was happening in that process.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
What is like your sign making process like, actually? Like, how do you take in a customer? How do you determine what sort of style, what sort of colors, what are they looking for? How much of a say do you have in their logo and sign when someone comes to you?
It's a good question. And right now I'm not taking on too much work where I don't get to design the work as well, because I think that's where the magic happens, right? It's like going to a surfboard shaper and being like, it's like going to Mark Petroselli, shouts out to Mark, and
Faction
being
Surfboards.
like, hey, can you make me Channel Islands dumpster diver? It's like, that's so whack.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But people do that, and that happens with me. People show me other people's work. If it's slow, you got to do it. But for the most part, I tend to do the whole design to then paint and implement whether it be a storefront or sign for a vending machine or a truck. I'm thinking in the last couple jobs I did.
Do you interview or investigate?
Yeah,
them?
definitely. I love to start out with a phone call and just see like, well, what are you trying to do? What is your ultimate goal? And then there are social implications to certain kinds of lettering and certain colors, of course. So that's just persistent. Like Italian restaurants are going to get certain colors, and French restaurants are going to get certain colors. Also, then there's applications of gold leaf. I do a lot of glass gilding, and that's something where it works for certain places, but other places I'm like, I don't know, like that might be like a little too ostentatious. You're selling $5 tacos, like, or whatever, $3 tacos. Like maybe you don't really need that. Like maybe you're going to kind of scare people away a little bit.
What's glass gilding exactly?
It's a good question. It is the process of adhering gold leaf to glass. It is a very old technique. There's one way in which I do it called mirrored gilding, where you're laying the sheets of gold on the glass with water gelatin size that you make. You make the glue. The glue is like water, so you paint water on the surface, the glass, that is to say. And then as the gold gets close to the glass, there's a capillary action that happens. I don't even know what that means, but that's just what we say. But no, there is this really odd action where you pick the I guess I need to preface. The gold leaf is so thin. If I pull, like when I work gilding, I can't have people within 5 to 10 feet of me, because if you walk by, just your body movement, the sheet will just fly away. It's like very, very thin tinfoil, if you will. So you pick up the gold leaf with a gilder's tip, which is charged by electrostatics. So you charge it on your arm or your head, whatever. You pick up the gold, it sticks to that. Now, when it gets close to the surface with the water, it shoots from the tip onto the glass, and as it dries, as the water disappears, it dries a mirror finish.
Wow.
And then you go, after you get all the gold on, and it takes a couple layers, you then put your pattern up or your template, and then you have the letter forms. You paint the letter forms, you wait for the paint to dry, and then you remove the excess. And wherever you remove, or the gold stays where you painted, essentially. It's almost like batik. It's like a resist.
Wow. Holy fucking patience.
I guess so. I mean, people say that about me, but I'm just like, no, like I needed to make a living. Like, I mean, the first gold leaf job I did was an absolute nightmare. And if you see, there's not a repeating pattern here.
Well,
but it's like surfing,
learned.
you push through, and Yeah, I did something for a publishing company. It was way out of my league, but I was like, I'm going to figure this out. And it was perfect. They're like, you could only do it during the weekend. I was like, perfect, lock me in there. But there it was at like 4 a.m. Like, oh my God, like I am screwed. And I was able, I probably went over budget with buying a bunch of extra gold, but I learned something super valuable. So
God,
it all worked out. And yeah.
Fuck, I don't know. I would have to take Ritalin to do that.
Yeah, I don't coffee, but I don't mess with any of that stuff. I think
That'll
you have
mess
to
you
be
up.
so in touch. I mean, I'm sure people would do that, but not for me. I'd be too.
No, you have to be focused. You have to be aware. Like it sounds like you have to have that focus over a prolonged period, which I think in today's world, our attention spans are so short.
Yeah, they are.
I was curious, like, what do you do to maintain that mental mindset?
I think surfing, that's where surfing comes into play. That's like the, not the middle ground, but that's the back to reality check. It's such a reality gauge.
Do you still skate at all as well?
No, hardly.
Really?
Hardly. So, we were talking about progressing. I'm still progressing in my surfing, but my skating, I'm not. So I just don't care for it. And I mean, it just hurts. And I mean, look, you can certainly get messed up. Yeah. You can mess your hands up surfing, right? But not as much as you can skating. So I get a little like pet there where I'm like, I don't really want to get effed up. But there's that. And it's really just, I'm not progressing skating, I'd rather go surf and, still maybe learn something.
Surfers are what skaters are supposed to evolve from? Is that?
Yeah.
And then people who sail are like surfers that evolve?
Yeah. I've never sailed, but I totally see that. Yeah, like all the Phil Edwards talk, how we got into that. I'm like, and the Mickey Munoz talk about
Munoz, that. Mikey DeTemple, who loves to sail. Yeah. John, who's into it. Wayne Lynch.
Unfortunately, these storefronts aren't paying for a sailboat.
No, definitely not.
But I'm working on it. Yeah.
I mean,
even a canoe, actually, like my partner and I, sometimes we go to this little camp trip and get on a canoe, and to be in a canoe with another person and get in a rhythm is like, oh, wow, this is beautiful.
Yeah. I mean, absolutely. It's great couples building then, as well.
I suppose. That first half an hour is always
got to learn to communicate. You got to get in the same mindset. You got to realize that your stroke might be slightly different to theirs, and you have to adjust.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I would say just getting in the water, getting out in nature is that reality check for me,
What you've also done some video or film work as well, right?
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
You made a film that was on the Huff website. They posted at least a little about Children of the Clay.
Children of Clay, yeah.
How did that come about? That was sick. I love that.
Yeah, thank you. How did that come about? Well, actually, so my senior thesis at Pratt, again, I was a printmaking major, but I was like, I'm making a Super 8 movie. That's a print, And they were not happy about that. But and actually, that's one of the first times I surfed on this trip. My friends and I, we flew out to San Francisco, we drove to LA, and I got a lot of the footage. That was actually for the film before Children of Clay. It was called Street Mattress. I really need to, I have this stuff on DVD, but I need to redigitize it. And those films were just, I didn't, you get out of art school and you're like, what are you going to do? And I'm like, I'm going to make skate videos. But I'm going to do it in Super 8. Because again, I was very inspired by that stereo film from the 90s. And just the way that it looked, it wasn't about just the tricks. It was about the whole thing, the whole picture. These people just cruising down the street. Maybe they just have one selective trick because, again, the film's so expensive. So you have to really narrow the focus of like, all right, we're going to do a 15-second line. David, I want you to do a Wanali off that little hill spot. And you just hone it in, and it becomes really fun. And it becomes less of like, in that era, everyone had a DV cam and it was just like, let's just film 100 times and pick the best one.
Exactly.
And that was kind of boring to be around. I had a lot of friends that were talented filmers, but the vibe of the session was like dead. And I found when I broke out the Super 8 cam, someone would be like, oh, I got something for you. You know what I mean? You'd be like, all right, well, what is it? Like,
it's got to be worthy.
And at the time, it was $10 a minute. It was $30 for a roll. And again, I had no money when I was out of art school, but I still I would do one roll a month.
Wow.
So you figure you could still cram 20 tricks onto a reel if you plan it well, little 10-second lines. But So yeah, I made those films for a little bit, and I thought that was like going to be a career or something, which was just absolutely insane. But again, I didn't actually think it was going to be.
Everyone was following Spike Jonze, you know?
Yeah.
It was like he
totally.
set a template, and a lot of filmmakers, you know, succeeded in that way, going commercial.
I didn't actually think it was going to be a career. It was, again, one of my harebrained ideas of just like, I'm just going to do this because I love it. And it really was something that I loved, and I loved filming my friends.
When are you doing a surf one?
So I'm still supposedly making one, but I'm sure some of my friends are just like, yeah, right, dude. I have some footage compiled over the years, but it's just difficult because when the surf cranks, I want to surf. I don't want to film. You know, I don't
know if they do a solo shot for Super 8s.
I know. I found a water housing too for a while, and I like rigged that up with like a cheaper camera, but it's also just gotten a little too expensive. So it was $30 or $10 a minute 15 years ago. Now it's even more. So I'm just like, I don't know if I can do this. And you could film on your iPhone, but then you don't have that selective perspective, and that's what happens when things get so expensive. You're kind of like, you're very selective.
I have an idea.
Tell me.
Get an old iPhone and just fill it with filler memory, and you're like, I only got 2 gigs.
3 minutes.
I got 2 gigs.
That's great.
We're gonna make it out of this.
Yeah, and I think that's a thing. You know, I think that's a thing. Yeah, I've been really digging into Kiarostami's films, the Iranian filmmaker.
I'm not familiar. Inform me.
Oh
yeah.
my God, go watch. Well, Taste of Cherry is intense. It's about suicide, but he was limited, to my understanding, because of the regime, right? There's only certain things he could do. And he, in fact, actually worked for like the Children's Television Network. But being he was limited, he was able to get to this place. He really had to be philosophical, and he really had to have these certain shots that just spoke volumes, like just to your soul. It sounds so cheesy to say, but watch some of his films and you'll be like, oh my God. And I think there's something that comes out of that. It's like within limitation, you can actually have this very expansive experience for the public, the viewer, and also the person that's making it.
Well, I often think that some of the greatest, most creative work comes from all the restrictions and
100%.
Learning to utilize those restrictions. And instead of looking at them as restrictions, they are things to bounce off of. They are things to utilize as a messaging or to criticize as well. And so it gives you some framework, whereas I actually find it harder when you have just expansive space and no defined limitations or borders. You know, that to me is actually worse sometimes, because it's like, I don't know.
Yeah.
You know?
As I get older, I relate much more to the limitations. Yeah. Because there's still kind of no such thing as limitations. Like there's a framework, but then it still can be so limitless within that, you know?
Well, it's like,
it becomes more of a focus. What do you focus in on?
Well, it's like in surfing or in certain martial arts. Like there's this book that I love called Zen in the Martial Arts, and it's, you know, just all these little anecdotes, and it's philosophical. But there's this whole thing about like this one guy who keeps losing these, these sparring matches because he keeps trying to do a high kick, but his body can't do that anymore. It's limited, and so his teacher said, well, if you focused on other things that you can do and do them really well, you can win, you know, you can win your sparring match, because those are your limitations you have to work with, and you can't. And it's like, it's true. And then if you can master the things within those limitations, you can really push the boundaries, actually.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. And I mean, I've been watching more competitive surfing.
Yeah.
I love I don't love the WSL, but I love the slow-mo. And seeing the way that some of those guys attach themselves to a certain amount of limitation. I mean, I don't need to see another 360 by you-know-who. Air reverse.
I'm so over them.
By Italo.
Yes.
He's so good at them, but it's just, then it becomes a little too much. But to see the way other people use their limitations and add a little spice to it, it's like, oh, okay, this is somebody that's really aware of who they are, where they fit into this bigger picture, and how they're able to exploit it.
And play to their strengths, play to their things that they can do. Like, Ethan Ewing.
Oh my God.
He can do airs, but his strength is on the face.
Yeah.
Like his strength, and no one can do turns like that.
Yeah, I'm such a fan, actually, of his surfing. I think that's why I've been watching it more. It's just like, as a regular footer.
Well, his is like one of the most continuous lines, his lines are so perfectly connected that they just flow into one another. Whereas, Idolo, again, phenomenal surfer, but everything of his looks chopped. It looks broken up. There's no continuity to it. There's no, it's just maneuver in between, in between. Whereas Ethan, it's like dropping in, bottom turn, even going up into the lip is almost a maneuver into itself. It's something you can 100%. Appreciate.
And even, no shade on Italo, because I've seen him on some like free surf clips where, or even on a twin fin, you're just like, oh my God, he surfs so good in this, but his mentality's different. So like, he's making a living. So I don't even, no shade.
I love him. No, it's, look, I'm not judging, but my brother and I have this whole argument. I'm like, I've never seen Italo do a full roundhouse cutback.
Yeah,
I've never seen him do a proper figure 8 cutback in my life. I've seen him do, because he surfs so tight to the curl. But it's not a burn. It's just saying he surfs so critically. He never goes out onto the shoulder really to
completely agree.
Do a proper cutty. It's always a slash instead.
Yep.
So
that's interesting.
Yeah, that's like, and that's like same with like Felipe, even to a certain extent. Like He's been
surfing good though, man. At least in that Burley contest, I was like, shit.
He surfs amazing, but my thing is he double pumps his bottom turns. He doesn't hold the line always off the bottom. Like it's a in between maneuver, in between maneuver type of thing again, where I want to see like the continuity of the turns.
Yeah, or that economy of movement again.
Exactly. Exactly. What artists are you looking towards now or look to inspire you?
It's a good question. Jeez. I don't really look at a lot of art.
Really?
I don't in these times. Of course, I do a little bit on Instagram, things I see, but I'm actually not looking at a lot of art right now. Yeah, I'm just kind of working on my own thing. And sometimes I think that's a good thing for me to sort of have the blinders on. Just to be myself, if you will. And even within that is like, that's such a joke, right? Because we're all in this continuum. We're all walking on the backs of giants. But I sometimes find it's a bit of blinders. So the art that I look at is usually my friends, I just saw Juan's show that he had at this bodega the other day, and that was just beautiful. I love that. I love the space, how it was a store that people are then confronted and confounded by art where they might not expect that. And I love that.
But that's that your
experience. Work. A little bit.
That's your signage. Yeah. That's totally like unexpected in a way.
Yeah. Yeah, a little bit. Yeah.
We were also talking before the show, and I wanted to dive into this actually, like how you sound like someone who likes to create in a vacuum almost, with not a lot of distractions.
Definitely true.
But being a sign painter requires you almost to be performative.
Yeah, and that's the thing is signs are not art. Yeah. They point direction, and art asks questions. That's how I've always seen it. So now I've split the medium. I did a performance piece in 2013, maybe it was 2012, in San Francisco, where I was painting signs on the street for free for people in the Tenderloin in San Francisco. If you're familiar with the Tenderloin, it was quite an experience. So I do like to kind of dance between the two. I don't always want to be so like definitive, like this needs to be in that box, that needs to be in that box. But does that answer your question?
Yeah, I mean, like it's a conversation, I'm just posing it out there. But no, it's like, that's fascinating. What was that like being in the Tenderloin, doing this performative art, basically?
Crazy.
Were people tell you like what they wanted, or were you just doing the signs and like, here you go? Well,
I made this, it wasn't a truck. I made a push cart, and it said because. I'm really racking my brain here to even remember what because meant. So it was BCAUSE, and it was the Broadcast Center for Archival Usage, and I can't even remember what it stands for, but it was some kind of acronym that you walked past and you're just like, what? Like, what is this about? And, in the Tenderloin, there are a lot of people with time on their hands, if you will. And so people would just be like, what? Like, because what? Like, what are you talking about? And like, you'd just be like, I'd be like, come on over. I'm making a sign. They're like, you're making a sign? And then automatically you see people get all warm and gushy. And they're like, oh, wow. Like, I've made signs before. And that's the thing about signs. You know, I didn't come up with this quote, but someone said this once. Some amazing sign painter, I can't remember their name. Everyone's made a sign in their life. You know, everyone. So I think a lot of people are attracted to it in a way because we've all tried. We've all made a lemonade stand sign. We've all made a sign, no parking or whatever, or happy birthday dad or happy birthday mom. We've all done that. So people are intrigued by that. You know, it's kind of a humble art form, if you will. And people would just come up and then it just became about a conversation, you know. And you're sitting there and you had people... make me one that says no peeing in the stairwell. These people keep, and you're just like, oh God, like rough. You know, you really get to hear people's, and then the other people come up, hey, I got a bike shop down the street. Can you make me a sign that says free air? And then you're like, free air? That's kind of interesting.
That's like, That's a fun to say.
Yeah, and you're just getting through all those motions and painting those. I would say the signs were really not that great, but it wasn't about that. It was really hard to focus, and I'd have people coming up behind me and everything like that. But quite an experience. I think performance art, I mean, painting a sign in a window is very performative. I know to not paint signs on a Friday night in the Lower East Side. I've had to do that before.
Who would go to the Lower East Side on a Friday anyway?
God, I was ready to just jump off a bridge during that job. And people banging on the window. You know,
what are you doing? Yeah. What are you making?
Yeah, but I do love it when kids walk by. Those are the ones I try to impress the most. I don't care about the Wall Street guy or even maybe the famous restaurateur that stops and looks and pulls his glasses down. No, I'm looking at that kid to walk by and be like, wow, what is he doing? And maybe instill something in them that they might want to paint signs. Because you hear about that all the time, kids seeing, and I didn't have that experience, unfortunately, but you hear a lot about like, oh, I got into signs because when I was 14, I saw, you know, Chuck whoever painting a liquor store and I was just blown away. And then he pulled out some brushes and he gave me a brush and the rest was history. And I think that's what it's about, you know.
Do you research like the different styles of signage that has in the past, and like is there a certain era that really appeals to you in terms of sign making and style?
Lower East Side, 1930s to 1940s is amazing because there's all these signs in Hebrew, Spanish, Italian, just all, and you can see how they were bringing their different cultural iconography to New York. And a lot of these photos are in black and white, so then it's also fun to be like, oh, I think they use like yellow with like a white shadow. You know, you just kind of go through your head and you can see like, oh, that's a gold leaf sign. But just there was such incredible signage at that point in time. And then in the Lower East Side in general, it was just, I'll try to send you some images and stuff, just stacks of signs in not in every different language, but a lot. And then signs, of course, in I think it's Mandarin, but I'm not sure Mandarin.
Gotta
Chinese
wonder
languages.
where all of them went.
The sign painters, yeah. Well, a lot of them switched over to vinyl. You know, when that stuff started happening, and I think my generation is lucky because, you know, my trade really blew up around like 10, 15 years ago. And it was when we were all on our phones a lot. Yeah. And I think a lot of people were coming to me because they were sick of that. Yeah. They wanted this antithesis. They wanted this to the fast, quick technology. They wanted something custom. They wanted something handmade. They wanted something tailored that wasn't a font from the internet.
Well, it's all about like, I feel like there's this desire to return to analog amongst certain people, you know, whether it's records or typewriters even, or calligraphy, handwriting, like it or even like just going back to a flip phone, you know, like I feel like there's an urge for many people to kind of go more analog again because there's something unique, there's something special, there's something timely about it, you know, and it's a very specialized craft where also you're somewhat unique. There's not a lot of sign. At least I don't know of how many like hand-painted sign makers are out there.
There's not a lot. And I mean, I saw that and was like, yeah, I mean, it wasn't like a career move as much for me as much I realized, you know, my temperament and my hands are kind of made towards something more handcraft based. And doing that work in my 20s in print shops and framing, I was like, yeah, I think I'm really just more of kind of a crafts person for a living than working in an office. Yeah. You know? But it's certainly a direction we're taking, you know, even under AI, we'll see. I'm actually convinced that I mean, I'm seeing it. My work is not dying. There are these new machines that can like print on glass and things like that, like lickety split, but it's not really the best quality.
Yeah.
They look pretty shitty. I mean, sure, you can get a pop-out board, but is it the same thing as when your friend makes it for you? You're going to have the same experience in that board? Definitely not.
No.
You know, and I think that's what it's about, is in life, at least for me, it's about experience, and experiences with people is what make things special, you know?
Well, it's the human value that is put into it. You know, when someone makes it, especially with care and quality, and it's not mass produced, I feel like people just intrinsically put more value onto it.
Yeah, I think we do. And, you know, certainly humans have made computers and AI systems, but there is something intrinsic and something just so magical to it's just part of the human continuum when someone makes it by hand. When you get a surfboard shaped, especially like say by like a second or third generation shaper, there's something special about it where you're like, wow, this is something they learned from their father and their grandfather, and you're just like, wow. You know,
have you ever tried shaping a board?
Yeah, I have. Yeah,
you have.
Andrew and I shaped a 6'3" single fin flex tail.
Ooh, just going right to the deep end, huh?
That's some Andrew and I. Again, shouts out to Andrew, the storyteller. Yeah, I mean, that was, that's us right there. That's, you know, it was during COVID. And then, of course, like I lettered the whole bottom and went like ape shit on it. I didn't need to do that. But, you know, that's how we do it. Sometimes you get an idea and you can't run from it. But I absolutely loved it for like 3 months, and then kind of like had a few days where I'm like, damn, this thing's a dog, dude. Like these rails are horrible. You know what I mean? But I did get to ride in some bigger surf, and the tail hums a little bit, which is pretty wild to experience, like that flexible tail panel.
What did you do? What did you make out of that, the tail panel then?
It's fiberglass. So you shape the whole board, and then you dig out like about 10 inches from the tail, and you leave just the fiberglass, but the foam's gone. Then we just put like EVA foam or a yoga mat on top.
Yeah. Like the Pendarvis style. Yeah.
Yeah, but I'm actually dying to just, I mean, I never would. I love his boards. But to my understanding, like there's still quite a bit of foam. Or by foam, I mean like PU foam.
They're not
completely done.
Just
I mean,
fiberglass.
It would snap.
Yeah.
But I still think it's like, I mean, how thick is the remaining PU? That's my question.
Well, I think it's not super thick, but the rails are. The rails are still
very thick.
You know, the rails are still thick, even around it. You know, so there's a little bit of that.
And that's also because you can't dome out EVA like that. You can't dome it out on a shortboard.
You know, like I mean, you know, Mick Mackey kind of does it. Yeah, I guess.
Yeah,
you know,
totally.
It can be done, but it's, you know, there's also like a whole thing around flex and whether how valuable it is or not. You know, and how much.
I think it's incredibly valuable.
Oh, it's valuable, but like how much is too much?
Yes.
You know?
Yes, there's a threshold. 100%.
Like I feel like with flex on surfboards, you shouldn't necessarily fully feel it. You know, like it shouldn't feel like a spring. You should just notice extra energy, a little bit extra out of it. I use the S-wing fins I surf, and that is wild because you can feel a bit of the snap, but it's not like
crazy spring. Yeah,
you're not like being thrown off by the twang. You know, like,
and I mean, I'm a big, or not really anymore, but I used to surf a lot of single fins, but I've never been a fan of flex fins. They're just not for me. I'm a scrawny guy, and there's just too much bounce.
Yeah.
I was actually riding a glider this weekend that had like a flex fin in it. I was like, you got to get rid of this thing. Like, you can't do any footwork with a flex fin. Like, it just bounces around too much. It's not. But yeah, and I've messed with some of those green-in fins too. They have a little spring, but yeah, flex is an interesting path. And Andrew and I were just going down that during COVID, and we still have not seen a photo, and I think that's, again, talking about limitations. Sometimes you're so limited, we're dying to see a photo of the board that Chris Brock rode in Morning of the Earth, because his surfing at Lenox is insane. Yeah. And it's ahead of its time. I mean, he was also an incredible surfer, so we can't separate that from the equation of the board. But we know he was on quite a large flex panel on the tail, but I don't know. Like, I haven't seen this photo. Now, I did get to see it at the Rockaway Surf Film Festival remastered, and you could see the boards a little better, but still, it's cooking down the line. You can't see the panel.
Although that would be cool, to get a blueprint almost, if you will, to be able to see that.
Yeah, totally.
What are you riding? What are you riding right now? What did you ride this morning?
I rode a 7.3 hull that Joe Falcone made me.
How were the waves?
The waves were shit. They were shit. Like I kind of tend to not surf below like an 8-second interval. I know that's pretty nerdy, but I just realized like you kind of can't really push off the wave at that point. I had fun. I got a wave towards the end I was excited by, but I've been riding thrusters.
Really? Interesting.
Yeah, my friend Bo was in town last year, and he stayed with me and made me like a 6.0 thruster, and I've just been really into like 5.11 6.0 thrusters, a little longer than me. I just took it on a surf trip and creased it, so I'm heartbroken. But it was a good surf trip. That's what I've learned,
good surf trip.
You know, like it was heartbreaking, honestly, just heartbreaking. But I've been really into thrusters actually. I was a big single fin guy for a while, and then we got into the flex tail thing because I was like, it's a certain limitation with single fins where they don't have like enough hold, and they get weird when you put too much tail rocker on them. Yep. So then I don't know. Then it was like I was riding twins, and then it was twin with a trailer, and now I'm just like, fuck it, I'm riding thrusters.
I'm all about the quads.
Interesting.
Quads for New York because it's all down the line, so you just need that speed. You know. But you're a skater.
I'm also a backhand surfer at Rockaway, so that's a whole different. And I do love the twin trailer and that setup.
But you're also a skater, and skateboarders use their back foot more.
Yeah.
And also that's why you like single fins, and I think also why you like thrusters. Whereas I've always been more heavy on my front foot, and so the quads and twins kind of lend itself really nice because you're using a bit of the forward rail as opposed to the tail. And sometimes that works for you, sometimes it doesn't.
Yeah.
But I think that's like also the differentiation of style. And like growing up skating, totally. I think that a lot of people who skate are more back-footed.
Yeah, I would say that's so. And narrow stance too, which does not work on a thruster, but that's been helping me really just widen my stance more. And yeah, it's helping me progress more. I felt kind of like, you know, single fins is like,
it's limiting.
It's limiting. And our waves too, like bowly, junky closeouts. It's like, come on.
Well, the singles are great for teaching style,
making
you smooth and learning how to read the wave and where the energy is. The thruster is going to allow you to learn the acrobatics more, you know, and I think that's kind of, you know, like single fins around here are very limited.
So limiting.
Very limited.
I'm kind of at the point now where I'm just like trying to ride a log because it's pretty crappy, but I enjoy riding a log, you know.
Gliders. I wish I could store one.
Yeah.
You know? I just want a glider and then just surf that, you know, but I have no storage space for that.
Yeah.
You know, need nature shapes to do a bisect, you know?
Yeah, a little two-piece.
Yeah, exactly. The carbon compact, they call it.
Oh, man.
Hey, I want to bring up just briefly before we go, like you got a Albers Foundation residency coming up in 2027. Can you just tell us listeners a little bit about that and toot your own horn?
Yeah, I mean, it's special for me because I didn't think I was going to get it. Like, I didn't think at all, but I was like, you know, you miss every tube you don't pull into, or you miss every shot you don't go for, whatever they say. And I was supposed to find out by X date, and I didn't. And I was just like, I didn't get it. Oh, well, damn, you know? And this was at a time, again, like, I think we touched on it earlier, and I probably didn't answer your question so well, but writing that essay really pulled me back into art making.
Right.
It really just made me realize the value of being involved in the world around you. And signs is certainly part of that. But again, those just point direction.
Yeah.
But I think being able to ask questions to people and have them participate is so important to me.
Mm-hmm.
So I applied for that residency and somehow miraculously got it. And it's just a really special thing for me because emotionally I've been coming really back to center as an artist, not just as a sign maker.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just really looking forward to having 2 months to just make my own work and turn the sign work off. I'll probably be doing, I'll be doing it in the winter of 2027. So it's just going to be a very focused time. I haven't done that in years.
Wow.
So I'm really honored to take part in it.
Dude, that's amazing. Congratulations.
Oh,
How
thanks.
stoked are you? You're gonna be like, I have all this time. What do I do?
Yeah, I think it's going to hit me like a ton of bricks. I'm already looking at, where's the closest surf break I can, break out of the zone of being in the studio for like 48 hours. Definitely, yeah. Or like thinking of getting some snowshoes, just to break it up,
Yeah, get it. Go snowboarding too.
Yeah.
Just like bring it backpack,
Yeah.
and do some
Hike
hikes.
up.
Yeah, backcountry style.
You never know.
So, John, man, I am so stoked that you came in. I really
Thanks for having me,
appreciate
man. It was a pleasure to chat with
awesome.
you.
It was so nice. Where can our listeners find you if they want to either procure a sign or artwork?
The name of my sign company is Hand Signs. The website is handsigns.info. If you want to see some artwork, you can go to jonbocksel.info. Good luck spelling that last one.
We'll put it in the link. Don't worry, below.
Yeah.
Dude, really, really appreciate it. Got to give a quick shout out to Joe here and
Thanks,
the
Joe.
NewsStand studio, our engineer here at the NewsStand studio. And of course, got to thank Rockefeller Center for hosting us. And of course, Swell Season, you can find us on Instagram at Swell Season Surf Radio. And of course, you can go to swellseasonsurfradio.com. And we'll all check you all down the line soon.
Thanks, Tyler.
Thank you.